All right, welcome back. This is part two of Introduction to Microsoft SQL Server. Still remain myself, Ade. Friends call me Ade's DBA, and this bootcamp is powered by Await Services. So in part one, we looked at the evolution of SQL Server and the different versions from year 2008 up until year 2022, the different editions we have as well as the different features that each version has brought to the clients. We also explored the SQL Server Configuration Manager as well as the SQL Server Management Studio. So right now, we're going to talk about databases and database objects in general. So inside of SQL Server, we store data in the database. Okay, and every database has two files, a transaction file or transaction log file and a data file. The extension of the transaction log file is .ldf, while for data file, if it's a primary data file, it is .mdf, and if you have multiple or other files, those are secondary files, and those will have the extension of .ndf. So for transaction log file, whether it's primary, whether you have one or multiple, all of them will have the same extension, which is .ldf. But for data file, if you have multiple data files, one of them, which is the primary, would have .mdf, while the others will be .ndf. Okay, that's another typical interview questions right there. So what is the difference between a transaction log file and a data file? So transaction log files contain transactions that go on in the database, inserting of data, removing of data, deleting data, truncation of data, and then updating existing data. All these are transactions that go on in the database. So the log file will contain all these transactions. Okay, and this is necessary in case we need to, recover to a point in time, or we need to roll back something that has been done. Rollback is just like when you undo what you did earlier. So, but these transactions, once you take a backup of the transaction log, these transactions will get flushed into the data file, and then they will become the actual data. So in real life, think of the transaction log file as the bank statement or the account statement. On the account statement, you will see, that you withdrew this amount of money this day, on this day, and so time, this money was deposited. All those different transactions, you will see them. So those transactions, that the bank statement is similar to log file, but the data file will give you the final summary of what you have in your account. So in that example, a data file is just like your account balance. After the depositing and withdrawal and everything, how much is left? That is the data file. So after deleting, updating, truncating, insertion of data, then what data is left in the database? That is what you have in the data file. Okay, so the log file is similar to the bank statement in that it has all the transactions that you do on your account, the withdrawal, the deposition, and all those things. While the data file is similar to just your account balance. You check your account, that's the summary of everything. Okay. So when you now back up your transaction log file, which we'll talk about backup later, when you back up your transaction log file, these transactions will get flushed with the data file, and at this point you cannot roll back again because these transactions have been committed. Once you commission of date of a transaction is similar to saving the transaction or is saving something. On Microsoft Word, when you type, you say Control S, and that is it. There's no way you can Control Z again after you've Control S because it's been saved. But if you have not saved, you can do Control Z to roll back to undo it. Okay, so after these transactions are flushed to the data file, they cannot be rolled back anymore. So a data file will contain the data, okay, which is like the summary of all the transactions that have happened in the database. It contains the data and it also has other objects, such as tables, indexes, views, stored procedures, triggers. All these other objects are present in the data file together with the data, the actual data itself. So physically, when we are looking at SQL Server on the screen, we will see that the data are stored in tables. We're going to see that when we do the demo. They are stored in tables. But internally, inside of SQL Server, these data are actually stored on data pages. Okay? They are stored on data pages in the data file. But when we are looking at it physically, they are stored on tables. So a data page inside of SQL Server is 8 kilobytes in size. This is another typical interview question. A data page, think of a data page like an A4 paper, like a plain paper that we use to write stuff or print. So it's 8 kilobytes in size. While we have an extent is a combination of data pages, a combination of 8 data pages. And the size of that, of course, 8 by 8 will give you 64 kilobytes in size. So you can be asked in an interview, what is the difference between a data page and an extent? So a data page is 8 kilobytes in size, while an extent is 8 data pages, which is 64 kilobytes in size. Okay. So broadly speaking, we have two types of databases. We have the system databases. We also have the user databases. Okay. So the system databases, they come pre-created or pre-installed with SQL Server. Once you install SQL Server, automatically you have all the system databases because they are actually necessary for the SQL Server to run. Okay, they're necessary for the SQL Server to start up and function properly. But while user databases, these are databases that we create as humans, as users of SQL Server. We create these ourselves. They don't come with SQL Server. So, and on the right here, see here we have databases. So if you expand this, then you will see system databases, and these are system databases that we can see on the Object Explorer of the SQL Server Management Studio. So we have the master, we have the model, we have MSDB, and we have TempDB. These are the 4 system databases that we can see on the Management Studio. So, but down here, let me change the color. Here, this is another database. But this is not a system database. As you can see that this does not belong in this folder here. It's not here. So this is a user database because this was created by me. It didn't come pre-created or installed in SQL Server. While all these ones came with SQL Server, I did not create these ones. So these are system databases. Okay, and when a user creates a database, you can pretty much give it any name. You can pretty much give it any